when I first started getting into eating disorder recovery, I was reading a lot of books, and I remember it made me feel so many things. Like I felt free. I was like, holy crap, like you mean I'm capable of more than just being a fat person who's striving for thinness? Like it really set a lot of things free, and it also made me so angry. I believed that I was inherently less healthy because I was fat. Hey, neurodivergent creatives. I was feeling it. I'm excited. Okay, so this episode is going to be resources for building your anti-diet system of support for throughout the year. Okay, I'm going to start with accounts on Instagram that I follow and that I recommend for you to follow. So your first thing, like let's do a digital social media kind of, I hate the phrase like let's detox, but a social media detox, meaning any fitness or wellness themed accounts that you follow that bring up shame or trigger eating disorder, like any type of disordered eating or like thinking that you're doing it wrong, go ahead and just unfollow those. And I recommend filling your feed up with beautiful fat bodies doing amazing things, which proves to you that your beautiful fat body can do amazing things. Okay, so here are my top recommendations. First off, the Underbelly Yoga. This is run by Jessamine Stanley, who also has a personal account on IG, and that is at My Name is Jessamine. And all of these are going to be in the show notes for this episode because I'm going to be telling you a lot of titles and stuff, and you don't need to be trying to write them down right now, especially if you're driving. So calm down. Don't worry. You got a list. So Jessamine Stanley is amazing when it comes to, I mean, she's amazing for like a lot of reasons, but she started the Underbelly Yoga and she is just so unapologetic about her body. Like when she's doing like a yoga move, she'll like sort of like move her belly around and like tuck in like her, just no shame. She just like moves her belly. And I'm like, was that an option like the whole time? I could just be like, hey, I got to move my belly over here with no shame. I love it. And she's also like doing headstands and stuff. And I'm like, oh, so I can do yoga in a fat body. And she was like one of the first accounts that I followed where I was like, yeah, I want to see fat yoga happening in my eyes. Thank you, Jessamine Stanley. So she's amazing. Follow her. Also of the plus size yoga variety is Tiffany Crow. And she has this very like beginner focused, it's called the 75 self-love course. I think it's like a 75-day yoga challenge, and it's like 10 minutes a day, and I managed to do maybe 14 days straight of it. And then I was like, I don't know, for some reason I didn't do it. So I think that's going to be one of Caitlin's toe dippings back into the world of fitness and wellness, physical exercise wellness, is going to be doing that self-love challenge because it's very like gentle and beginner friendly yoga, which means I'm not going to have to go to a yoga class and feel like my flexibility has decreased since I was last at a yoga class. I used to do hot yoga. Like I would go to like bar classes and all sorts of hot yoga and like dancey hot yoga. I was really in a hot yoga phase there for a minute. And like I would go to yoga classes. I would do yoga just sort of like out on the mats as a cool down at the gym. And I'm like, nowadays I feel like if people look at me while I'm doing yoga, they're going to be mean. And so, you know, I have an aversion to the gym right now, which is mostly in my head. I heard it. I gotta go. That's where the trainers are and the weights and the things I want to do and the pool I want to swim in. So I'm going to have to go. Stay tuned. I'll tell you how it goes. So next up for Instagram is Body Image with Bree. This is Bree Campos. I'm going to go with Campos. I don't know. It looks Spanish now. Bree Campos. She's a body image coach. I have been following her on Instagram for a while, and I literally always love what she has to say. Like, it's just positive about body image in general. So this one is not like an exercise account, but is like a loving your body, body neutrality. A lot of people can't get to body love. That seems too far away from like where they are right now, which is body loathing and shame. So body neutrality is a great goal. And I think Bree's account would be helpful in that area, like getting to neutral, maybe even positive. But next is the Myrnavator. This is Myrna Valerio. She is an ultra marathon, like super distance runner. And I first found her when I was a distance runner. I used to do half marathons. I've done 2 half marathons and like several 5Ks and 10Ks. So I used to run a lot and I really liked it. And she is a fat ultra marathoner. And so I remember I listened to her audiobook, and this is like a very long time ago. So I haven't been like as up to date on what she's doing recently, but I just found her on Instagram again and was like, oh my God, it's Myrna. So I wanted to make sure that she was on the list. So as far as I can tell, she's still running and being awesome. And like her book was so inspirational because it wasn't about, I lost the weight and became an ultra marathoner. Like, no, she's fat the whole time because fat people can also be very fit. Amazing. Next up is Intuitive Fatty. So this is somebody who I have met on Instagram in the past like couple years or so. And they describe themselves as queer, non-binary, fat, and happy. And like, hey, me too. I love it. So obviously a good fit there. But one of the coolest things is that they host plus size only like online fitness classes. And that is amazing. Like I love a fat only space. Usually it's like the fat people, 4 or 5 of us clustered at the back being like, oh God, I hope I can keep up with the Zumba. No, all fat people. I love that for us. Intuitive Fatty. And then last on my Instagram list is Chill Tosh, Tash. Like I'm thinking like Tasha. Looks like Tashion. Maybe it's Tash. I don't know. I just found her on the recommendation of a mutual. I did a reel on Instagram and asked people for recommendations of accounts like this to follow because I want exercise content, but I want fat exercise content. And we live in 2024 where we can actually find that. Now, are there a bunch of trolls in the comments? Sometimes. Don't always read the comments. Maybe some days the comments are not for us. But she is a fat personal trainer and like just... So I only recently found her, but just based on the vibes, I am already totally in. Like, she looks amazing. She's just always smiling. And like, yeah, she's fat. She's fat like me. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. So now I can go outside and I can smile and I can be adorable. These are things that I typically don't have a lot of trouble with, but I just marathon batched 4 episodes about diet resolutions and talked about my eating disorder a lot. So, I'm also going to be real with the fact that, yeah, sometimes when I think about doing speaking engagements or going out in public and talking about my book or something, I get nervous that people aren't going to take me as seriously as an author or as a business owner because of my size. So for me, even seeing fat business owners who are willing to be so visible and so bright and loud and bubbly, that is exactly my jam. That is what I need to see. Evidence that that's for me too. And then I put on my cute little sundress and then I go and I do adorable things. This is actually the dress that I was wearing in my working title writing incubator retreat video. And my hair was a lot shorter and I felt like I looked like a bump on a log, but I don't know, today it's working for me. So that's pretty cool. Okay. Next, I want to recommend some books. So first up is The Body is Not an Apology by Sonia Renee Taylor. And of course, also follow Sonia Renee Taylor on Instagram. And again, all of this will be in the show notes. And I don't have a copy of Your Body is Not an Apology, but I do have the workbook, which I haven't opened because I haven't felt like it was the right time yet, which I realize is weird perfectionist bullshit. So I'm going to be doing this workbook in January. I'm just going to challenge myself to do that and focus on that because I've had it for like 2 years and it just sits on my shelf being like, one day you'll be ready for this workbook. Why not today? It's today. Great. Love that for me. I also I haven't read it in a while. I read this at like the beginning of my ED recovery, so I don't like specifically remember, but I do remember really liking it, is You Have the Right to Remain Fat by Virgie Tovar. And also Virgie Tovar is great on Instagram. When I first started getting into eating disorder recovery, I was reading a lot of books. So I was reading memoir. I was reading like Health at Every Size, which I do want to talk about. That's sort of like the first like major book to examine the idea of health at every size, of healthy fat people, of health and weight not being as linked as our socialization would lead you to believe. And that was one of the first books that I read. And I remember it made me feel so many things. Like I felt free. I was like, holy crap. Like, you mean I'm capable of more than just being a fat person who's striving for thinness? Like it really set a lot of things free. And it also made me so angry. Like when I learned that there's not actually like a statistical reason for us to pathologize fat and obesity, like BMI is made up. I was furious. Like I was furious because I believed it. I believed that I was inherently less healthy because I was fat. And that's not why I'm unhealthy. First of all, I have fibromyalgia. That's a chronic illness and it's autoimmune and it has nothing to do with my size. I have had fibromyalgia at a variety of sizes, but my health and my chronic pain not linked to my weight. And that was infuriating and freeing all at the same time. So that book started a lot of things. And it is by Lindo Bacon. Lindo is a name change. So the author's name at the time of publication and what you are likely to find the book listed under is Linda Bacon. But they have since come out as non-binary, changed their name to Lindo Bacon, and they go by they, them pronouns. However, there has been a bit of a kerfuffle in the Health at Every Size community because there were some allegations that Lindo Bacon asked for research help / sort of took credit for research done. And I don't remember the exact things. I read this like 2 years ago or something now, but they were basically asking for like free or underpaid help from Black fat activists and not compensating them properly. / they may have taken Black fat activists' work and used it in their book without giving proper credit. I am not as up to date on this situation as I probably should be before I'm just going to put it in a podcast. But it's like such a seminal book for this topic that I didn't want to leave it out, but I do want to acknowledge that that comes with some kind of problematic elements to it. So it's good that it exists. It's good that it was written. It's good that it launched 1,000 ships of health at every size researchers and practitioners. But take it with a grain of salt because dubious activities. And a similar kind of disclaimer, though not necessarily like stealing people's ideas or whatever, but The Fuck It Diet by Caroline Dooner has always been one of my top recommendations. This is the book that made me realize I had an eating disorder, and this is the book that started my recovery. So it is very special to me, but the author is not one that I would recommend you follow for health at every size. First of all, she doesn't really post about the Fuck It Diet anymore. She doesn't really post about health at every size anymore. She is mostly just like living her own little life. And I believe the last time I looked at her Instagram bio, she said she mostly posts about gardening and God. And I'm like, okay, that's good for you. But she sort of like recused herself from this like snafu with Lindo Bacon. And she was like, look, I'm not really involved, which is fair. She's not. But I don't know. It sort of felt like a little cancel-y, culture-y, but also, I don't know, because I don't want to be like, well, she had to make a statement on it because I don't know. If she's not fucking doing health at every size stuff every single day, then maybe she's not aware of a scandal with Lindo Bacon, you know? But she has gotten away from that as like her primary message. So I recommend the book. I learned a lot in the book, especially about the Minnesota starvation experiment, in which they took a bunch of like average, like strong dudes and cut their calories down to like, I want to say 1600 calories. And they basically went fucking feral and had like PTSD from the starvation of that. And I want you to really think about that in the context of how many calories we tell people to eat when they're on diets. Is it any wonder that we are absolutely fucking up our bodies? And this book is where I learned like I needed to rest, like to stop throwing myself at the pursuit of thinness. It was such an incredible, affirming book for me. But Caroline is mostly a hermit these days. So like you don't need to follow her on Instagram. And if it is important to you to know who was on what side of the Lindo Bacon thing, she was sort of like no comment about it. And that's all I know. So on that note, I know that there are podcasts that people recommend. People have recommended Maintenance Phase to me 1,000 times. And ever since I stopped commuting to a job, I have had a very hard time listening to podcasts. So I haven't listened to it yet, but I'm pretty sure it's awesome. So you might want to give that one a follow too. Okay. In the meantime, still time to come into Stay Fat in 2024. I know we are at the end of January now, but the calls that we had with Live On Forever in the portal when you buy it, it's only $25 to get basically 4 really in-depth, supportive, and mindset affirming calls to help you set up an anti-diet lifestyle. And hopefully these Instagram accounts, these book recommendations, and Maintenance Phase, the podcast, will help you maintain this anti-diet mentality throughout the year. Cool. Okay, that's all I wrote. So I'm going to go do some other stuff. I hope that you stay hydrated and well and that you are taking very good care of yourself because that's my friend. And you should be nice to my friend. Okay, see you later. Bye.